It's been incredible to be involved with Interbet. Their loyalty has been phenomenal. Through good and bad times, through COVID, they've stuck by my side. Often I look at the odds and they obviously got very competitive odds. Their website's phenomenal. And I just think all round from Interbet is it's a great product. Well known that Interbet pump their tote bets back into the pool, and that's the only way to keep racing going and keeping it on the upward spiral that we're on at the moment. So I think it's an imperative decision by Interbet and very grateful that they're doing that for the industry.
We talked in depth off camera about a very, very beautiful omen that has transpired in the life of Gary Lemke, which I think it's very poignant because we've watched some fantastic panel discussions this week with Alistair Cohn at the helm and Dees Dynant, and we've seen Warren Lenferner. We've seen some great racing minds impart their wisdom to us, and everything is so opinion-driven and form-driven. But I'd love to hear this beautiful omen that has crossed the cerebral cortex of Gary Lemke.
This particular one, I'm on a WhatsApp group with Charles Pretorius, and he's the best racing writer in the country, and he's a proper writer, and he wrote a wonderful book on horse chestnut. I think it was probably around 2000. I don't know.
Spot on. He wrote it
around this.
He wrote it in my flat. We managed how many computers and printers we broke, but bottom line is that he diligently penned that story. It was a masterpiece, just as Pocket Power was. But anyway, let's get back to Charles.
So hold that, park that thought with Charles Pretorius and horse chestnut. So I was in London, as I mentioned earlier, and Michael Roberts, the great Michael Roberts, won his first July in 1997 on Super Quality, I think it was.
1997,
and then he came back,
yeah.
And then he went back to England, and he was riding a bit there again. And I remember calling him because I was looking for scraps of work with the Fleet Street newspapers. And I said, I can get an interview with the great Michael Roberts, who's written for the Queen, etc., and all that. And so I phoned him, and in the course of the hello, Mr. Roberts, well done on there. We haven't chatted for a while. I'm also from Durban or Pinetown, as it turned out. And we started chatting. I was just passing the introductory phases. And he said, have you been following South African racing? I said, no. I've lost touch. He said, there's this horse chestnut champion. And I'm thinking, horse chestnut, is it? I know Sweet Chestnut was a sprinter, I think, before. And I'm thinking, horse chestnut? No, I can't. So I'm parking that. I'm thinking, narrow it down for me. Give me the horse's name. He said, okay, you must watch this horse chestnut. And I'm thinking, well, okay, I don't want to embarrass myself even more. And then I got chatting to him about his life over there. So if we park that thought now. So that I've been thinking this past while about Charles Pretorius, who wrote Horse Chestnut. So then I went through the race card and the race itself. And you'll know better than I do, but some horses, there's a window period for horses to be named and then renamed. So often you get a horse that's run before in a previous life, as it were. So there's one horse in this July field that has had a name and has run before, or not had a name, but the same name has run before in a different flesh and blood. And that horse is Oriental Charm. She was a filly in the mid-90s. She won a maiden with Toby van Boemer, the late Toby van Boemer, in mid-90s at Gosforth Park. And I think she just won that one race. She's now 17 if she's still around. She then went to stud. And she wasn't a very good broodmare, but she was covered by London News, Model Man. And then in 2008, she was covered by the winner of the 2006 July. And that was Eye of the Tiger. And they had a little colt called My Boy Bowser. So now I was thinking, well, here's Oriental Charm. It stands out on its own for July. There's my omen. I put that down. I'm thinking, well, her last covering was by Eye of the Tiger, won the July. Was trained by Dean Cannemeyer. It started 6-1 favorite. So I'm thinking, well, what have we got here? We've got Green with Envy. And there's that alignment there. And if you look at the latest betting, Green with Envy, I think, is around 5-1 with Hollywood Bets. So yes. I think Gondolier and Eye of the Tiger were the longest price favorites to win the July. and they were 6-1. Now you've got Green with Envy, the favorite, at 5-1. So all those kind of planets aligned. And then I'm thinking back to what Charles' book about Horse Chestnut and Michael Roberts. So I had a look. Okay, Michael Roberts got one runner to See It Again. So I put that down. So now we've got 3. Now we've got Oriental Charm, Green with Envy, See It Again, and suddenly we've got 3 in the first 4 or 5 in the betting. Not that that matters in a race like this. And I'm thinking, well, let me find one more for a quartet, just a box quartet kind of thing. And I looked through the race itself, and my version of a horse is a 5-year-old male, that's going to go to stud. And there's one in the field, and it's double superlative.
Superlative, yeah.
And so we've got that quartet. It's not going to be a straight line, but it's just amazing. And then I've got one more for you if you want a box 5. And I've got my Olympic kit today, and I'm so happy to be going to the Olympics and privileged, etc., etc. But because I'm looking for Omen, I've got a number on it.
Number 18.
Number 18, and that's Future Pearl. So
Future Pearl.
now I'm running around. Yeah. Anyway, that's my little Omen story, how the dots connected, and it was because of Michael Roberts and Horse Chestnut and Charles.
And then you know what the Afrikaans community will say? Listen to this Groot Bek. Groot Bek, Future Pearl. We can put that in because that will make it pay. If that wins, it's almost a carryover because we know that he's definitely a very solid performer, but he's probably destined for the Gold Cup. I think few would argue that point.
Having said that, Grant van Niekerk on his day, he's right up there with the best around. But coming from that draw, I think he's won quite a few times at Greyville, maybe for Michelle Ricks, coming from wide draws, even over 1,400.
Yeah.
I think did he ride one-way traffic when it flew over 3,000 around there at Greyville as well? He knows how to ride at Greyville.
Yes.
But yeah, anyway, I must admit that if I can ask you a question about the race itself, are you in the 3-year-old camp or are you with the older horses?
I'm definitely with the older horses. Definitely. I thought, I saw a post today from a mate of mine who writes for Hollywood Bets, Neil Maurice. He says, believe me, and this is not his kind of style. He says, believe me, See It Again is the best horse in the race. So I believe that this time last year, he was the best horse in the race. I just don't like the way he's trained on. I'm not saying that he's not the same horse, but when you consider the way he won the Splash Out Derby, the way he sauntered past Charles Dickens, the way he won the Daily News 2000, he did everything but win the Hollywood Bets July last year, but he just found an older horse that was perfectly weighted, that was perfectly set up by Brett Crawford and beautifully ridden by Cabello Mazzignani. So he had his chance to win his July. Now he's got 60 on his back. He has had anything but an ideal preparation. His campaign in Cape Town was abysmal. He won the Green Point with contempt. He was a damn squib in the King's Plate. He was a damn squib in the World Sports Betting Met. That's sad. It's sad for Michael Roberts because he is, without any question of doubt, South Africa's greatest equine horse ambassador. Gary Player will never be usurped in my book. But the bottom line is that he's just not a superstar. He's a very, very good horse. But I do not believe that he can give the kind of weight that he's going to have to give a horse like Oriental Charm, for example. That's just my thinking. Which camp are you in? I know you're in the flag camp.
I was flagman, and I've got to commit to that. But the more I look at it, again, I've got to go with the 3-year-olds. And so when I did my selections in for Hollywood Bets, I went flagman, Green with Envy, Barbaresco, and See It Again. And yeah, flagman, from that draw, the more I've looked at it, but I'm happy with the jockey. I just don't know how good it is, and I think he's had 5 or 6 runs or something like that, which
he's
is
the most
hard.
unexposed horse in the race. He
He could be anything.
He could be anything.
He could. Now, the one thing that doesn't scare me is the draw. He's
No.
drawn 17, obviously. And I remember Boat was kind of the first time that I was exposed to a horse winning from a wide draw. It was number 6, drawn 18. Funny enough, the number on my Olympic bag.
Yeah.
So he was drawn 18, and there were only 18 runners, or there were 18 at the same
Yeah.
in that year, and he won from 18 draw. And then we've had what, Pomodoro, the conglomerate, quite a few coming from
London
wide.
News.
So
London News was drawn 20.
20,
Flaming
20,
Rock was
20.
drawn 20, 1991. So
Yeah.
look, the course was very wide then, but realistically speaking, as Jono Snaith said in his Cape Racing preview, he said there will always be a pace in the July because the adrenaline at that start at the 2200 meter mark with all the people milling around, and this once in a lifetime opportunity for young jockeys and experienced jockeys. Anton Marcus will even tell you, you still get butterflies. Doesn't matter how old you are or how many of you've won, you still get butterflies. Anthony Delpeche will tell you the same. So I think there will be a pace, and it's just about luck in running because we know Greyville, the best horse doesn't always win, but you just got to have a little bit of luck in running.
Now, Andrew, when you say that, on that point, there's an hour between the race before and then the Hollywood Bets, Durban, July, and the jockeys get announced and probably an anthem, etc. Are there any horses in the race who prone to sweating up, or the noise and the atmosphere, etc., the music, like a Hawam? Is there anything? And that's what kind of worries me a little bit about Flagman, because he's only had a couple of races, and also worries me a little bit about the horses that haven't been in the big features before, so they haven't been exposed to the big crowds. So something to me that comes into it is See It Again, definitely, because he's been there. And Royal Victory for me comes into it because he's running the biggest races. There have been crowds. There's been that gap between the previous race and that. I don't know. I mean, is there anything kind of with a suspect temperament?
The first horse with a suspect temperament is See It Again. He behaved very badly in Cape Town. He is a colt. We know that Michael Roberts is very kind to his horses. He never, ever grinds them. So we don't know what happened to See It Again's blood in Cape Town, but I do know that the performances we saw in the King's Plate and the Met were not those of the kind of horse that See It Again is. And it's very difficult to train an entire because he's not coltish, but he is going to obviously suffer from, thick blood, hemoconcentrating. And he also is a horse that is prone to becoming stroppy. We've seen him behind the pens. I think Michael Roberts will do well to keep him right at the back. I know where Jono and Justin Snaith saddle. I know where Sean Terry saddles. Mike de Kock is right next to the parade. He never seems to worry. He's been there, he's done it. But it is a very valuable point that you've raised, because there is so much energy in that parade ring. You need to keep those horses out the parade ring as long as possible, unless they have that bomb-proof temperament that allows them to walk around and not really give, a hoot about what's going on. So, Flagman could be one of those. See It Again is definitely one of those. I haven't really identified any other potential disasters like Hawam, for example, who only in the shadow of the post managed to rear up at the start at Greyville. So what are you thinking about the temperament issues that you've seen?
Well, I don't know. I mean, has any stable employed Milan for tomorrow? Milan de Toy, because, I don't know, and I don't have any insight, but for argument's sake, Red Palace's race, and she behaved badly in front of no one before, but Milan then sorted her out, and I think she's scratched from one grade 1 race in the Cape, but she's now perfect. So she's going to be there. So Milan will he be on course? And if so, is he assigned to a particular stable for the July? That might be a kind of appointed, he works for everyone, doesn't he? And you'll know again.
He does. He works for whoever requires his services, and He's very, very loyal when it comes to that domain. So,
Is he in town?
um,
Must be.
I must admit, if I'd have known that you were going to ask me that question, I would have phoned him beforehand. But I can definitely slot it in when I edit this, which is going to be probably in the next 15 or 20 minutes. Milan du Toit is in town because he will be, one asks yourself the question, how much can he do in the parade ring? What's my computer saying? Upgrade now, running out of time.
Okay. We've got 10 minutes.
We've got 10 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, let's push out. You go.
Let's push. Yeah. So Gary, to answer your question, I think it all depends on the big match temperament of those horses, because I've seen them boil over on the way to the start in the Derby and the Oaks. I've seen a filly called Daddy's Little Darling drop her jockey, Oliver Pellier, on the way to the start, where a thunderstorm took place on the hill, because they have to go 2,400 meters to the start before they come back. So it can very easily happen. So temperament's very, very important. But if we take things out, if we just put a blanket cover over this discussion and say, all things being equal, who is the horse with the most potential to improve and deliver an incredible form? It has to be Flagman. And I think that's the reason that you went from him. You're thinking to yourself, look, if this is the favorite, Green with Envy, and he's at this price, he was about 7-2, 28-10 at that time after the Daily News. And Flagman was 14-1. And then they whacked Flagman, the merit rating. So those are probably the two most talented horses on an upward spiral in the race.
And obviously, then you take in the Daily News 2000 as a pointer because they finished like that. But it was a terrible race, on to watch and probably to ride in and just be there. But Barbaresco,
was it so bad? People are making it out a disaster. The time was significantly faster than Michael de Kock's filly, who's running in the Garden Province. It was about 1.5 seconds faster. So how slow was the Daily News? They talk about stop-start. I think a lot of this is urban legend, to be honest with you.
Okay, but you just said now. So I think that the Colts are far better than the fillies because there is no filly in the race for the first time in I don't know how many years. But you've just answered it. You'd expect that Daily News 2000 to be considerably faster than the Will Avington. So the thing with Barbaresco, a couple of points. Some say it won't stay, but it's got a good draw, which will favour it. It's got Gavilarino, who's obviously committed to it, and the diet and the strict regime. And we know when a jockey does take off the weight or try to, they're doing it for a reason. It comes from a stable in form. And the way it was hampered and not running in snatches even last time, he just couldn't get it into a proper rhythm, even down the straight. But it wasn't going away at the 2,000 meter mark. So, and the reason why I went with Flagman is because he also, Green with Envy came up and he's got that wonderful turn of foot and it didn't get away from him, even from the third horse. And I think their 400 meter to finish times are very, very similar. So you're right. It's going to take a lot of luck in running, and you probably find that the horse leading 300 out is going to have a big chance. But I don't know. That's just, I'll tell you 5 minutes after the race or 5 minutes after when they go down.
When you look at the race last year, nobody in their right mind would have thought that See It Again could possibly have got beat with 200 meters to go. He looked like he was absolutely traveling hard against the steel. And how was anybody going to get past him, bearing in mind that Pierre Stratum was aboard? I just want to bring up two horses because we really are running out of time. The first horse I've got to bring up is a horse called Aragosta, because I don't like him. But I know that he did win the Derby as a 3-year-old, and Brandon Bailey brought out some very, very important weight turnarounds with a lot of horses, sometimes as much as 10 kilograms, with particular regard to a horse called Royal Victory. on their meeting in the Summer Cup, or maybe the President's Champions Challenge. I can't remember which race, but Aragosta on paper has to have a chance.
Absolutely, and I mean the trainer's a master, as you've alluded to just now. I fancied him last year, to be honest. I sent Craig Kisvet a WhatsApp before the race, and I said I fancy Aragosta, and he wasn't there. But for me, he's in a similar boat to Safe Passage in that I think they both got extreme talent, and they're great athletes, but they're not consistent enough for me. So Aragosta's not, in my book, I can't rely on him, and so I'm going to leave him alone. And the same with Shoemaker. Having said that, you mentioned Silver Sanctuary now, and that's obviously a question why she didn't go in the big race, given you might think she's better over that trip, and he left those other two. So it wouldn't surprise me if Aragosta won, but I can't see it.
No, it would shock me, and I would bow down in front of Michael de Kock. I would be shocked because I think he's had a very, very hard campaign. He raced throughout the Cape Summer season. He raced in all the big feature races at the end of 2023 in Johannesburg. He came back. He hasn't stayed in his box. He's been earning his pound of flesh. I respect him because of his trainer and because he's a serious horse, but I just can't see him being specifically prepared for this race, and with absolutely no prejudice towards the horse.
In my calculations, I've got Aragosta next to Master Redu in the finish, and they're not. They're kind of a couple of legs back.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I think with Future Pill. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Right. Here's a curveball for you, Son of Raj. I've got lots and lots of omens pointing in the direction of Son of Raj, not least of all the journey down from Johannesburg, where we stopped at a restaurant called The Raj. I had been in the Peter stable the day before doing an interview, and I know that this horse has come on in leaps and bounds since he changed stables. And I must stress that I've seen horses improve from Terence Millard to Colin Lee. It's not necessarily about the expertise of the trainer, but the change of environment that sometimes really helps him. So I'm asking you, can Son of Raj, with that weight on his back, as a former Derby winner, a contemptuously easy Derby winner, give them some cheek at Greyville?
Yeah, for me, you've hit the nail on the head. Hollywood bets Greyville is the issue. I think he's better down a long straight, turf meeting. And I think he just needs to get going to gallop, and I think he's got the quality in the class, and that I think did he not run in last year? I also kind of had a look at him last year.
Yeah, he did.
Him as a 3-year-old.
My next door neighbor actually asked me to put some money on him, but he finished a dismal 8 lengths behind. And he beat Billy Bowlegs in the Derby trial, and then he beat Billy Bowlegs. He beat Future Pearl by 3 lengths in the Derby trial, and then he beat Billy Bowlegs very, very comfortably in the Derby, but seems to have lost his way since then. I'm not exactly sure when he was gelded, but I've just got a funny feeling about the horse Son of Raj sneaking into the quartets.
I think he's got to be up with them. I don't think he's going to run on from behind because there's too many, like Green with Envy. He's not going to be coming from off them too much. So again, when I did my calculations, he'll be where Purple Pitcher is likely up front. Son of Raj won't be too far off. And he's got to get going early, like Future Pearl's got to get going early, and Purple Pitcher as well, I think. Because there's too many with that turn of foot that can catch them, I think. So they've got to, and Aragosta probably has got to be with that, the staying types. And I think Son of Raj is, as he won the Derby, didn't he? Yeah.
Definitely.